Okay, I'd like to call to order the May 20th Board of Direction meeting for the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District. You can see that we've established a quorum here. Welcome to all that are here. And let's stand up for the Pledge of Allegiances. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag, the pledge of allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thanks. Okay, now we're going to move on to public comments. And we have two today. First, Mr. Joe Burgess. Please, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, my name is Joe Burgess. I reside at 1015 Private Road 4101, just north of Lexington. I would like to enter a couple of comments for the record regarding Lost Pines General Manager Elvis Hernandez. Representing himself at the water meeting held in Lexington on April 23rd, Mr. Hernandez made a very heartfelt, if not emotional, presentation on what I feel are the real groundwater and political factors that are affecting area well owners today. At the GMA 12 meeting on April 27th, Mr. Hernandez was well prepared to represent Lost Pines and held his own in discussions with the Brazos Valley and Post Oak GCD representatives. I think that we understand that the Brazos Valley GCD represents a rapidly growing, highly technical, and politically influential region that directs a lot of pressure on the Brazos Valley GCD. Obviously, Brazos Valley is not in a position to care about what happens to the other GMA 12 members, but I do appreciate Mr. Hernandez's efforts to protect Lost Pines. Thank you.
Very much.
Forgot to turn on the microphones.
Okay, next we have Judge Frank Malinak from Lee County. Sir, please.
I just wanted to say thank y'all for what you do, and thank y'all for supporting the current level of desired future conditions. You know, the basic question I think we all have to ask ourselves is if our grandkids and great grandkids are still going to have water if they live here. And that's what this board is all about. So thank y'all for holding the line on that. I study these things sometimes, and I've heard some of the things that are going on in other places that have got to be fixed. Not sure how we do that, but what you do here is a start for us. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, are there any public comments with anyone that is remote? Hearing none, we'll go on to item number 3, the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion or actions of these items unless requested by a board director. The items on the consent agenda are the minutes from the April 15th, 2020 regular board meeting, the financial report from April 30th, 2026, and invoices received and payments greater than $15,000. Is there any of the directors that, Nancy?
I don't necessarily want to rescind the financial report, but I would like to make a suggestion for it for the future.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I think that I understand export fees are what pays for mitigation. And, those don't show up on our listings, and we don't see what's coming in and how mitigation is being paid for. And by looking through, the payments that are being made, we've got some serious dollars going out the door. I think the board should be aware of what's coming in and what's going out and where we stand on that. The same issue with grants. I know that we have whatever size grants they are, and we see the things that come in and out, but we don't see the full story of grants. And I think those should be on the financial report every month.
Okay. How about, we get together in the governance committee the finance committee, excuse me, to see if we can make a change to put those in.
Yeah, we have a separate bank account, as you know, for export permits. We have not dipped into that account yet. So that export account has not been touched. So right now, our mitigation money and our other money comes out of our general.
Yes, I see that.
But yes, but we can add that and and make it and detail it.
Okay.
Sure.
I just think the board needs to understand what's coming in, what's going out, and what's left.
Okay. Did you want to see changes to that financial report here, or is this something you're good with the comment here that it's going to be
Done
taken
in the
care of?
future.
Done in the
Absolutely.
future.
No,
Okay.
not this one.
Okay,
I'd like to have that stuff added, so we're aware of what's happening.
gotcha. Anybody else? Okay, I'd like to have a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as is.
Thomas Sufi has made the motion.
Second.
Patty has seconded. Uh, Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, any abstentions? Motion passes.
President Texter, could you turn on your microphone there? No, the other one, it's red. You just turn, there you go. Just touch the sides until it's green. Perfect.
Oh, okay, got it. I'm sorry. Is that all you have to do is just touch
You
it?
just touch the sides.
All right. Okay, the regular agenda, announcements, I have none. Does anyone on the board have an announcement they'd like to make? GM, any announcements? Okay. Regular agenda item 4B, discussion, consideration, and possible action on a mitigation application appeal.
Gentleman's right behind, Mr. Grinsby is sitting right behind me.
Please, sir.
First of all, thank you guys for having me today. I love the opportunity to present my case here. Never really talked about well water before because I've never owned a well, but apparently it's a big deal. So want to kind of talk about the facts of the situation here. We have a 150-foot decline in the past 8 years on one well. The static water level dropped from 156 feet in 2017 to 306 feet in January of 2026. My well is 710 feet deep, screens at 620 to 680, completed in the Simsboro Aquifer, and meets every eligibility requirement for the mitigation program. The denial concluded this was likely drought. I'm here to show the board why that conclusion needs a second look. The search stopped at 3 miles, the wells don't. I know Mr. Hernandez found no production wells within 3 miles, but just outside that radius sits some of the largest Simsboro wells in the area. Thomas Turfgrass, which is 3.4 miles east, rated over 2,000 gallons per minute, drilled in 2018, the year after mine. There are 4 LCR Simsboro wells, 5 miles southwest, each capable of thousands of gallons per minute. LCR sought to permit to pull 25,000 acre feet per year, over 8 billion gallons annually from Simsboro wells in Bastrop County. I know these were not reviewed and their production records should be. I know this isn't just my well. In September, A mitigation replacement well was drilled southwest of my property for the Mullen family, also on Simsboro in 2012. It was 170 feet static water. 2017, 185, 2019, 201, 2021, 211, and at 2023, the pump was set at 320 feet. And 2024, the Mullen replacement well was at 324-foot static water level. The steady directional decline across multiple wells over 12 years is not a drought signature. Drought causes temporary dips. This is showing depletion. If the board believes drought caused this decline, can the district provide an example from Bastrop or Lee County where Simsboro domestic well dropped 100 and 150 feet and was determined to be drought driven alone? See, the district's own data supports a broader review. The district adopted desired future condition allows 240 feet of average drawdown in the Simsboro, explicitly anticipating the scale of decline for consequences of permitted production. And the regional groundwater modeling found that combined Simsboro pumping reduces hydraulic heads across multiple aquifers, with effects extending well beyond the immediate well sites. There are hundreds of domestic and livestock wells in Bastrop and Lee County have been projected to be impacted by permitted Simsboro drawdown levels. As of 2025, new municipal contracts for Simsboro pumping near Bastrop County were already drawing concern from local well owners. What I'm asking is reversal of the denial or reopen the review, pull production records from permitted Simsboro wells within 10 to 15 miles, and review total annual withdrawals from 2017 to present. Review static water level trends from nearby wells over the same period. Evaluate whether the Thomas turfgrass and LCRA wells have measurably affected hydraulic head in my area. Review whether other mitigation wells in this area reflect the same pattern or decline. If drought is the conclusion, provide the data supporting it, specifically whether a comparable Simsboro decline has ever been attributed to drought alone in this county. This program exists for exactly this situation. The district built this mitigation program to protect domestic wells from production-driven decline, and my well is registered, eligible, and has lost 150 feet of water column in 8 years in an area where the district's own planning has anticipated significant drawdown. I'm not asking the board to rule in my favor today or on incomplete information. I'm asking for a complete review before the denial stands as final.
Share my screen here. Yes. So all right, so as folks know, the mitigation program started because of Vista Ridge. And we've mitigated about 86 wells, mostly in the northern Lee County, Lexington area. So mostly in that upper quadrant next to Vista Ridge. So I've got Vista Ridge up on the screen, and the well that's in question here is 30 miles away from Vista Ridge. So let me just start there. Whereas the vast majority of all the wells that we've mitigated thus far have been much closer to Vista Ridge, within 15 miles. As Mr. Gwynn stated, there are no non-exempt groundwater production wells within actually 2 miles of the property. Within about 3 miles, there's the one that's just off the edge over by Highway 290. That is the Aqua well in that area. There's also a Thomas turfgrass well that's not quite shown. That's just a little bit off, about 3.5 miles away. And also about 3.5 miles away over by Camp Swift, there's the Camp Swift Aqua wells. These wells, the Camp Swift wells, have been in place for years. As Mr. Gwynn stated, his static water level in 2017 when it was drilled was 156 feet. The measurement in February was of 306. So there's about 150-foot difference. We have since measured as well again last week. We had Spheros go out there and the water level has actually increased by about 5 feet since February. Here's a bigger view within 6 miles. So one thing, the LCRA wells, that is the line of wells in the bottom of the circle there, those wells are not even drilled yet. So there is no LCRA production going on at all. Also, just north of that line of LCRA wells is the recharge wells, and those are also not in production, that they haven't even been drilled yet. So the only production within 6 miles of this area is basically the Aqua Camp Swift wells and maybe the Thomas Turfgrass, a McDade well, real small relatively, and they've been in place for years and years. So if it was, and I'm not disputing the water levels, clearly there's drawdown in this gentleman's well, and clearly there's water that's been drawn down, but I cannot pinpoint it to any particular production. I've never mentioned that drought was an issue. So according to our eligibility requirements in our mitigation document on page 5, section 3, eligibility requirements, number 2, it says decline in water level causing the need for mitigation of the well must be directly tied to production of groundwater. So I have to tie these mitigations back to a permit. If I can't pinpoint and be able to determine the permit that's causing these issues, it's not eligible. So all the other eligibility, yes, the well's in Bastrop County, it's a registered well, but there's no production that I can pinpoint. If this gentleman's well was being impacted from production, then other neighboring Simsboro wells would also be having impacts. I did measure wells, I did gather information about neighboring monitoring wells. So just within about 2 miles along Camp Swift, if I could pipe back up. So in this bubble here, along Camp Swift, there is a recharge monitoring well that's been in place for the last year and a half. There's been no change. I think 0.25 feet. A quarter of a foot has declined in the recharge, our monitoring well, that it has a real-time monitoring equipment monitoring that well 24/7. In the last year and a half, it's had a 0.25 foot drawdown. The other monitoring well we have is in the Boy Scout Ranch. We've been monitoring that well for years, and since 2019, that has had a 30-foot drawdown. I also went and looked at other domestic wells that are 3.5 miles from that Camp Swift well field. The wells I measured, or not measured, but the data I gathered, one well was drilled in 2017, the exact year that Mr. Gwynn's well was drilled, and that Simsboro well has only had a 20-foot decline. And that's also 3.5 miles from Camp Swift. So if Camp Swift was causing the issues, it would have also caused a 150-foot drawdown at these other wells, and they're not. In fact, one of the wells, actually, the water level went up, and the other one, it's by Circle D, that well has only gotten a 20-foot drawdown in the last 8 years. So I just could not pinpoint, and mind you, we're not against mitigation, right? We've mitigated 86 wells, so it's not like we don't like to mitigate. I just need to follow our guidelines. And right now, I just cannot pinpoint a root cause of the production that could potentially cause a 150-foot drawdown. I've consulted with Dr. Miller, a hydrologist. She agreed with my assessment that we cannot determine and pinpoint these drawdowns back to a groundwater permit. Let's see, I think I have maybe one slide left. Okay, so yes, so this is the latest groundwater drawdown from GMA 12 at Interra. This is the predicted Simsboro drawdown by the year 2080. And in the year 2080, there might be about 150-foot drawdown in this area, but that is 55 years from now. So 55 years from now, we might be having, or it's predicted that we're going to have about 150-foot drawdown in this area, but 50 years from now, 55 years from now. Yeah, question.
So from a technical point of view, what's happening to his well? Is there any way to find out?
Well, I would imagine there could be maybe a well camera could go down to see if there's something broken in the well. Maybe there's a fault line along those lines. Obviously, there's something going on there that's different than in other that's different than other wells are experiencing.
But it's outside of our scope of.
Right, regardless of how much the well has gone down or not gone down, regardless of that, I still have to pinpoint this drawdown back to a permit. And I cannot pinpoint
I guess my question is, can you help him find out?
I don't know how.
We don't have a camera, right?
Yeah, we don't have a camera that we can just loan out to further inspect this.
I mean, the fact is that it was drawn down, though. That's guaranteed, proven, set in stone, right? That it has been drawn down. We just don't know why, right? That's
Correct. Yeah.
Well,
assuming-
wait.
Yes,
Can I-
yeah, Dr. Miller, I think that is.
Yes, this is. I do have a question. The only basis of that original water level measurement that we're taking this datum from is the driller's report, the original driller's report. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yes, that could be a source of an issue there as well. Sometimes those can be inaccurate, particularly, if there was, still something going on in the well, when it was measured.
Right. That's a good point in that many times when the well driller first drills the well, they'll take a static water level measurement. What I'm finding is that initial measurement sometimes is not accurate because the water level needs to settle. Sometimes it settles higher, sometimes it settled lower, but I've seen it where they measured the well and then we went out like a year later and it was 100-foot higher.
Yeah, it can be a matter of timing or of methods that they're using to drill. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case here, but I would not also say that is, an absolute truth measurement there either.
So any other questions? So I have looked at other domestic wells, exempt wells in that 3.5 mile proximity to Camp Swift. If Camp Swift was causing this, we would have had a lot of other issues with other wells.
And the same with Thomas.
And Thomas turf grass, right? That's even less than the Camp Swift.
what I was going to ask. It's a lot less.
The Camp Swift has got 4 or 5 wells in that Camp Swift area. And they're like 4 times the total of Thomas turf grass.
Okay.
Thomas turfgrass is that it has 1 well in the Simsboro
Okay.
in the Page Farm. The others are in the Carrizo. So I've looked at our monitoring wells that are in this area. We have 2 monitoring wells in the area, as I mentioned, one the Boy Scout ranch. That one's shown 30-foot drawdown since 2019. And then the recharge well has seen pretty much 0 drawdown in the last year and a half. So if there was a source of water that was, causing these drawdowns, we would have seen it in the recharge well for the last year and a half. And also this gentleman's well wouldn't have gone up in 5 feet in the last last 3 months. It's actually, the water levels have actually increased by almost 5 feet in the last 3 months. But the bottom line, as you mentioned, Director Cole, is that regardless of what the water levels are, I need to pinpoint the source back to a permit. And I cannot pinpoint this. Now, there are general drawdowns going on just generally from ag wells in the area, exempt ag wells, exempt domestic wells. So yeah, our aquifers are being drawn down independent of our permits. Even exempt wells are, an ag exempt is 200 acre feet. There could be a bunch of neighbors that have unregistered wells that we don't know about. And that could be, ag wells are quite significant. They can be up to 200 acre feet.
But those were not responsible.
Those were not responsible. Those are exempt. And if they're out there, they're not even registered.
According to our mitigation.
Right. According to our mitigation document policy, it's got to be a non-exempt permitted production that I got to pin this back to.
Well, it sounds like Spheros has documented that you've assessed this correctly at this point.
Well, they haven't documented it. It's been verbal conversations with Dr. Miller, but I've reached out to Dr. Miller when this happened.
Discretion
And she, correct, she's in the same position as I am with the same thoughts.
Anybody else? Okay. I think I understand this, that the question is, does this well meet the eligibility requirement stated in the mitigation? And the eligibility requirement is that it has to be tied back to a production well.
Correct.
And between the data that you've gathered, the data that Dr. Miller has looked at, you haven't been able to tie it to production well.
Correct.
Okay. So the motion would be, does Mr. Gwyn's well meet the eligibility requirements of our mitigation program? You think he does, you vote yay. Think it doesn't, you vote nay. Does everybody understand that motion? Okay. Could I have someone make that motion?
terminology of the motion.
You can just say so moved if you would like. Oh, okay, thank you. A second.
Well, which way are you voting,
Yeah.
up or down? It's not clear
Yeah.
if you're voting for the eligibility or against the eligibility, or you have to make that clear.
Right. I thought I did, but I'll do it
Yes.
again. If you're
Okay.
voting for this man's eligibility, you vote yay.
Okay.
If you don't think it meets the eligibility, you vote no. Everyone got that?
Peggy said we need like an actual.
Yeah,
sentence
it's
for
like,
motion. The motion is XYZ.
It's yes or no motion. I would make a motion that Mr. Gwynn's well does not meet the eligibility requirement for mitigation.
Okay,
I second that.
okay, so the motion is that Mr. Gwyn's well does not meet the
Correct.
eligibility. If you believe he doesn't meet the eligibility, you vote,
May I
Yay.
make a suggestion?
please, 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 please.
Just an addendum. It's the appeal that we're voting on, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Yes, yes. Okay,
So should it be we deny or accept the appeal? Is that?
I think so.
Yeah.
Denying the,
So
that's what you're asking.
oh, okay,
Mr. President, may I make a comment real quickly?
yes, please.
For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Greg Ellis. I am an attorney. I represent groundwater conservation districts all over the state. I am one of the attorneys that works with the Lost Pines District on various matters. Natasha Martin is out today because she is at a hearing for another client, and so she asked me to sit in as general counsel for her at this meeting. She's done the same for me at other meetings. And I appreciate her support. I'm happy to support her here. And part of the reason why there are so many lawyers and they make so much money is that they constantly disagree with each other as to what the law is and what the law should be. So if I say anything that's contrary to what she has told you in the past, I'll remind you that she's your general counsel and she has to defend whatever your decision is. So please follow her advice, not mine. However, in my opinion, negative motions are very difficult because if a negative motion fails, I'm not sure what happened. So a motion to not do something that fails is not the same as a motion to do something that passes. You see what I'm saying? In this instance, we have a request for an appeal. And so, yes, I think the appropriate motion here would be a motion to grant the appeal, which then would start the process of deciding whether or not the appeal has met what type of appellate process you want to follow, what additional evidence you need, what additional information you need in order to determine whether or not you should actually mitigate this well. The first question is whether or not to grant the appeal. So there should be a motion to grant the appeal, a second of that motion, and a vote up or down, yes or no, to grant the appeal. If there's no motion to grant the appeal, the matter is closed.
Okay,
So we don't even have to vote if.
hold on.
If there's no motion, there's nothing to vote on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if the emotion.
So is there a motion
Yeah.
to
Is
grant the
there,
appeal?
yeah, is there a motion to grant an appeal? Okay, there's no motion to grant an appeal. So glad I didn't go to law school.
I think that
So,
matter's now closed.
oh, the matter is closed?
Yep. The matter's now closed.
Okay,
The appeal was requested. The board took no action on the appeal.
okay. We done now?
Yep. Next item.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. All right. Item 4C. Discussion, consideration, and possible action on updates to the district employment manual. This was passed out about 2 months ago. It's in the packet. The changes to the manual were redlined on that. So everyone had a chance to look at this. Do I have any discussion on employment manual?
On page 15. Actually, it looks like it was really well rewritten. A lot of things were fixed and explained better. But on page 15, the probationary period, you have inserts for staff level employees and senior level employees. And I could not find those terms were defined anywhere in here. I think they need to say exactly who you're talking about. For personal days available. Okay.
We could add that. Yeah, we could add the definition. Yeah, I believe
Or
you're.
change it.
Yeah, I believe, yeah, or change it to make it just staff or define what the two are.
Define that, because that's the only place it is that I could see, and there's no
Yeah,
difference.
that's a valid point. Yes, you're right. So we could elaborate and clean that up.
What is that supposed to mean?
I think it's just historical. I think it's just been in there, and it needs to be updated.
Do you have levels of employee?
We really don't. No.
So then definitely that needs.
So we could remove it and just make it generalized, because we don't have layers of staff. We're all upper staff.
Well,
We're all-
you've got a division. You've got a division.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which is it if you're gonna do that?
Right.
Either that or you have to define.
Or we have to define it, or we have, right.
Go in the middle and say 3.
Good choice.
Um. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could just do that. We could just pick 3 and have just one staff level and have it at 3. If that,
Those type of things are really not used all that often anyway. They're generally, extenuating circumstances of something, so making it even for everyone should be,
okay. No, yeah.
sounds better to me.
So I think the motion would be that we add those changes, that we remove the levels and we just make it to 3.
Split the
Okay.
difference.
Okay, so the motion would be to accept the employment manual with the addition of changing the employment levels to one level. Is that got it?
With
Well,
3
I would just
days.
say, changing the section C, personal days, items 2 and 3. Removing items 2 and 3 and just say employees 3 personal days per fiscal year.
Because you've already defined probation, so that
Mhm.
doesn't count.
Yeah.
And if you have no difference in employees, you just say they're due 3 days.
Okay, so it would be to change it to just one level of employee and get rid of items double I and triple I.
Well, I becomes
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah, page 15, C2, C3. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, on page, okay. So the motion is one level of employees and under item C, personal days, changing that to just the one level, which is 3 days.
So moved, I'll move.
A
And what?
second.
I'll move.
Okay,
I like that.
okay.
We're good.
And we've gone ahead and adopted the rest of.
Yeah, yes,
Okay, good.
yes. The motion is to adopt it
All of
with
this with that one
with the
change.
change. Is that correct? Okay,
And that would include a part-time employee. If they're scheduled for 4 days, that counts as one of 4 days. If you need to say that as well. If they get 4 hours a week, then they're a day, their day is 4 hours.
okay.
Yeah.
They're pretty good with the motion?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Okay, is that a second, Director Cook?
She did a second.
Oh, Patty made a second. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Abstains. Motion passes. Okay. Okay, item 4D, legislative update. Mr. Ellis, I believe you're on.
Been contracted with for Lost Pines for some years now to be your legislative representative. We have pursued legislation, mostly successful. We have worked on other legislation, mostly successful, that needed to be amended over the years. And I'm getting rather anxious about this upcoming session because I believe this session is going to be the busiest groundwater session I've ever experienced, certainly since 1995 when we passed the rewrite of Chapter 36 of the Water Code. There will be topics ranging from groundwater planning, the DFC process, to permitting, to export, to whether or not single county districts or smaller districts are able to do the job that they're doing. And whether or not they need to be consolidated into multiple districts, regional districts, or even statewide regulation of groundwater. There were questions this last summer when Chairman Cody Harris filed bills dealing with the rule of capture and dealing with export questions. The Texas Water Caucus met and heard from Chairman Harris. Some of the questions from the members of the Water Caucus were frankly rather troubling, such as why aren't groundwater permits issued by TCEQ instead of these local districts? Obviously, there are lots of good reasons why that it is done this way. There can be arguments why there should be statewide regulation of groundwater, but every aquifer is different, and every community that relies on that aquifer is different. So, I think it's important for regulations to be tailored both to the science of the aquifer and the community that relies on that aquifer. Now, part of the problem is exactly what you all were discussing earlier. What happens, what's going on in one district impacts the water levels in an adjacent district. They allowed a couple sessions ago, or I think it was 2023, they allowed for the mitigation between districts through interlocal agreements. We have yet to successfully get an interlocal agreement signed. That may be something we need to pursue and make it so there's no longer optional and make it more mandatory. There also needs to be a better way to address this, I think, through the regional planning process, through the GMA process, to help ensure that those damages, those problems don't occur. There are huge concerns all across the state with data centers and the large demand that they represent. What I'm trying to educate people about is that export is not the problem. The data center is not the problem. The problem occurs when you have very large levels of demands in very concentrated areas. If we can spread the demand out over the entire district, over the entire county, whatever, usually that means there's not a problem. That's why when districts were first created, the only real solution they gave them was spacing of water wells. If you space the water wells out enough, then there couldn't be a problem between those water wells and those well owners. Well, that was also before the wells got so large that the spacing became an impossible tool to use as the only tool. There had to be production limits on top of the spacing limitations. And so now we're looking at having to do production limitations and spacing limitations, and we also have these export permits because the exporters believe they need 30-year permits to be able to get bonds issued. And so we have a special permit for them called an export permit that allows that. And there is certain considerations to go into whether or not somebody can get an export permit. But in terms of aquifer management, in terms of helping maintain the aquifer, that occurs through the operating permits. And the operating permits set the rate of withdrawal, the amount of withdrawal, the place of use, the purpose of use, and the point of withdrawal. And those things matter to the aquifer, whereas where the water goes once it's pumped does not matter. I do want to point out that where you have an irrigator or you have a small business, they use whatever water they need and then they stop pumping. When you have a city or a municipality or other water utility, they use whatever water they need to keep their system pressurized and then they stop pumping. Where you have a pipeline taking water many, many miles away, that pipeline has to remain pressurized 24/7, and they tend to use that water 24/7. Those wells tend to run all the time. And data centers are likely to fall in that same category, where the water demand is going to be absolutely constant because the data center never rests. It's not like a small business where they close up at 5 o'clock and go home. It's not like an irrigator who stops irrigating in June in order to be able to start harvesting crops in July. So the demand, it can be very different based on that type of use. But it's also complicated because we really can't, as a groundwater conservation district, we don't currently have any authority, and constitutionally it becomes very difficult if we try and tailor a regulation to a class of users, whether it be exporters or data centers or whatever you want to say. Now, we do treat municipalities differently, or most utilities differently than we do most other users, because they don't own all of the land where the water is going to be used. And with the 2012 Supreme Court decision in Dan McDaniel versus Edwards Aquifer Authority, finding that that groundwater is the vested property of the surface estate owner, makes it more difficult, makes it more cumbersome for us to issue permits to utilities who are servicing that surface area, but not from a well that's located on that surface area, from a well located remotely from it. So all these very difficult issues are coming up, and I expect this to have a huge number of bills filed this next session. Both the Texas Alliance of Groundwater Districts and the Texas Water Association have convened their legislative panels for the upcoming session. The Texas Water Association, I serve on their legislative group, their committee, and there's 120 members on that committee. They have divided the issues out into several categories. They've divided and created several different subcommittees to work on these issues. The issues presented at the opening meeting from different people were consolidated down into over 70 different unique topics, some of which are diametrically opposed. For example, one of the things that is the large utilities and the folks we refer to as exporters are complaining about is both the regional water planning group and groundwater conservation districts rely on regional water plans in order to determine whether or not to issue permits. For example, if you have a surface water project and it's not listed in the regional water plan and therefore not in the state water plan, then the TCEQ is prohibited from issuing a surface water permit for that project. Even if it doesn't need a surface water permit, or it's another type of project, say you have a groundwater project and you want to get state funding for that project, you cannot get state funding for it unless it's listed in that regional water plan. And several of my clients have denied a permit on the basis of the fact that that permit was not going to be consistent with the regional water plan. So the need for the consistency and these other limitations, the direct statement that was made, the argument that's made is, we have an unelected self-appointing board of the regional water planning group who are making decisions that affect whether or not a permit can be issued and whether or not funding can be provided, with no means of contest, of due process, or appeal of that decision. And so they would like to take that out of the law. That would also make the regional water plans toothless. There would be no, here's the plan, but nobody has to follow it. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. I know that there were also at the same time recommendations made going the exact opposite direction, which is we need to give those plans more teeth. We need to give the groundwater conservation districts more authority to say no to permits that don't fit within those plans. So we'll see as those issues come to a head. We'll see which way it goes. Both TWA and the Texas Alliance of Groundwater Districts have a consensus-built process before they can come up with legislation which they, as an organization, will support. They have to reach a certain percentage of the entire group. For TWA, it's 90%. Of the 70-something issues that have been raised, we'll be lucky to get 90% on 7 of them. So I don't expect a lot of recommendations. However, I expect virtually every single one of those issues that was raised before those two groups to be drafted up and offered up for filing during the coming session. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe as many as 50 of them got filed as bills. So it is going to be an incredibly busy session. I expect to be contacting you all and your legislative committee or whoever's in charge of your legislative work. And I think for you, that's the governance committee
Correct.
to discuss these issues on a regular basis. You all might get sick of hearing from me. Part of the problem is that, and I'll give you a perfect example of what happened to one of my clients last session. This was very into session. This was the Wednesday before Memorial Day. I'm sorry, the Thursday before Memorial Day. I got word that an amendment to a House bill that was being considered in the Senate committee on Friday morning at 8 a.m. was being passed around for the committee to consider that amendment. The amendment would have prohibited my client from reducing a permit of or requiring a drought restriction reduction of a permit for a certain Christian youth camps. I was in Austin Friday morning to be at the committee. The chairman met me outside the committee meeting just before the committee started. He explained where the amendment came from, and he promised to discuss it, but then said, we're probably going to have to put this amendment on in committee and we'll discuss it. I want to meet with you and one of your board members and other stakeholders on this issue Monday morning at 8 a.m. So true to his word, he amended the bill to put that on the bill. So for at least a while, it was set to become law that this client could not reduce certain permits for, as I just mentioned a while ago, a class of permittees, Christian youth camps. And I met with him on Monday morning with the other stakeholders, found out exactly which camp it was that was saying that they were going to have a problem. Was prepared to discuss everything that happened with that camp, that they'd gotten every permit that they had ever requested, that they had more water on their permit than they had ever pumped or ever needed, that they had already, because they had agreed to drill to a lower level of the aquifer, that those wells that they had drilled to that lower level were exempt from the drought restrictions, and they have been granted a written exemption for that. And to his credit, at least, the camp owner admitted that they were going to be able to get through this coming summer without any problems whatsoever, regardless of what kind of drought we had. And apparently, Chairman Perry had been told the opposite, that they were going to run out of water this summer if he didn't do something right now. So as soon as he heard that, he left the meeting. We continued the meeting on for a while and discussed other issues pertinent to their current application for a permit that they were unhappy about. But that afternoon, then Senator Perry brought the bill up, offered up an amendment to strip off the amendment he added in committee. That passed, and then he passed the bill without the amendment. So the bill came out clean. But that's the kind of thing that can happen. That was, in between Thursday night and Monday morning, I had to arrange for a director from that district to be in Austin at 8 a.m. and be fully briefed on what the issue was and what we needed her to say to the senator and Senate staffers when we got there. That's the kind of turnaround, and sometimes it's even faster than that. There are times when I'll be sitting in the audience and I'll get a text that somebody has an amendment they want to run by me that they want to offer that afternoon in committee. So I may be calling people and saying, hey, I've got this amendment. What do you think about this amendment? And if I can't reach you, then I have to do the best that I can. Fortunately, we have rarely had to worry about floor amendments. They do occasionally happen, but floor amendments, you have to respond to instantaneously. You don't know the amendment's going to be offered in most cases until it's offered. And you have to be able to explain to the members who care about your opinion about what that amendment will do and whether it's a good idea or bad idea and why. So that's what's going to be happening this session. There are several interim committee hearings up. I want to point out that the House Natural Resources Committee, which I believe is going to have a meeting on the 26th of June, Friday in Austin to discuss groundwater issues specifically. And there'll be several other interim committee hearings on groundwater issues. The House Natural Resources Committee has a whole list of interim charges, many of which involve groundwater, and one of them which includes just data centers generally. But the Senate side, however, doesn't really have any groundwater issues other than brackish groundwater development. So a very different focus between the two houses at this point. The House is going to be very, very focused on groundwater issues. The Senate, not so much. However, I've been assured by Senator Perry, although he doesn't have any interest in filing any groundwater bills this time, he is happy to pick up other bills or certainly allow other people to pick up bills and pass them through his committee. He doesn't have any opposition to that. Of course, we'll have to see bill by bill as they come through, whether he's opposed or not. I have also heard of at least 5 different areas considering trying to create new groundwater conservation districts. I'll be working with at least 2 of those, and we'll see how that proceeds. And of course, all the big controversies across the state, including the LCRA lawsuit against y'all, which may be addressed, by the way, if the Supreme Court takes that up and has not resolved that question prior to session, the legislature probably will leave it alone. If the Supreme Court denies that petition, then we're likely to see some legislation on that question of what deadline actually applies to groundwater conservation districts when it goes through a SOA hearing versus when it doesn't. And I think it'd be good to get that resolved. How it's resolved, I don't know. We haven't seen any kind of legislation. I haven't heard any suggestions. If you all have some suggestions of what you would like to have happen, then I'm happy to look at those. We also have the GBRA lawsuit against Gonzalez. Very similar question, very similar issues. Their permit was denied outright for a couple reasons. One, because the administrative law judge at SOA had determined that production for export at that location was going to prevent the district from achieving its desired future condition. But also because it was not consistent with the regional water plan. The regional water plan says 15,000 acre feet per year for GBRA out of Gonzales County. And it did not say 24,000 acre feet. So the 9,000 acre foot application to amend the 15,000 acre foot permit was denied. That's currently in litigation. It's supposed to be briefed and argued between now and in the fall. And again, we'll see what the outcome of that is, and quite likely see someone pushing legislation to address those issues come this next session. Another big issue, of course, is Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi is in dire straits. They're looking at having to go into stage 1. Their most stringent and the only mandatory drought restrictions that they have in place as early as this fall sometime. The recent rains they've got maybe allow them to push that back some. They're trying to purchase an existing production permit in San Patricio County. But to get that, they're going to have to get 22 new drilling permits and an export permit. And so that is in the process, and those drilling permits and the export permit have been contested. And we're going from the next step. We've just completed the preliminary hearing. The hearing examiner ruled that the protestants had standing and had raised justiciable issues, and therefore should be allowed to proceed to an evidentiary hearing. And she did so on all 22 of the drilling permits. So the whole thing now goes to an evidentiary hearing. And as you know, an evidentiary hearing could take 2 years. It just depends on the parties and how quickly they move and how quickly the hearing examiner moves. Right now, that's in front of a private hearing examiner. Once the evidentiary hearing is scheduled, then any party has the right to demand a SOA hearing and move the whole thing to SOA. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. No way of knowing if that's going to happen or not. Again, in that situation, I represent the board of directors, not any of the parties. So I need to remain as neutral as I possibly can. And we will see we'll see what happens. So all those issues combining and the Kyle Bass situation in East Texas, not too far from y'all, also in the Crazy Wilcox Aquifer, has really gotten the attention of Chairman Cody Harris because that's his district. It's also gotten the strong attention of Trent Ashby, who is very likely going to be the next senator from that area. He's replacing Senator Robert Nichols. One interesting development y'all might not have heard. Retiring Senator Robert Nichols has every intention of joining the Natchez and Trinity Valley Groundwater Conservation District as a board member. I have heard of board members going on to become senators. I've never heard of a senator going on to become a board member. That's the first for me. And I think it's great. I think it's very useful. I think it's a great way to get him fully educated, to have him help educate his former colleagues on how groundwater conservation districts operate and why they need the authority that they have, and why we probably need more authority than we have today. So with all of that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I will keep you all informed of any interim hearings coming up and any as these various groups and their legislative committees continue. And we'll do my best to make sure you're fully informed on what's going on, and we make sure your interests are represented before the legislature. I'm guessing everybody's asleep.
No.
No.
Great,
No, we're not.
great news about Senator Nichols.
Okay, Greg, I've got a question a little bit more, or I should say, I'm a little confused on. You'd made reference to regional water plans and that groundwater districts will need to somehow interact with the regional water plan. Could you once again go over who or what agency or
Turns
what
out-
group is
President Texter, I represent the GMA 12 at Region K.
at Region K?
Yes, that was given to me, so to speak, at the GMA 12. They asked me to be the representative of GMA 12, so I represent GMA 12 at Region K. Region K is all along the Colorado River. And so most of the Region K water is surface water. But obviously GMA 12, we're very groundwater based. So I represent those interests for the GMA 12. Region K, every 5 years, they come up with this region water plan. We just finished that, and it was just recently approved by the water board. And it happens every 5 years. There's a new cycle where they take all the demand and they put it into this water plan.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
Greg, will you be giving us maybe some kind of list as the committees? You said that some of the committees have already formed. They're already sitting, where we can understand exactly how many committees are going to be dealing with the water issue, and then potentially what they will be looking at for bills.
I just received this week the list from TWA of the subcommittees that they've appointed and the issues they're going to look at. So I will absolutely pass that along. And the Texas Alliance Groundwater Districts is putting together their group of subcommittees right now. I expect that to be finalized over the weekend. So I should have that list ready sometime next week, and I'll be happy to share those with you.
And your estimate is that we're going to be looking at how many subcommittees?
Of these organizations, there's probably going to be about 8 or 10 different subcommittees that are operating at any one time.
Okay.
Now some of these are issues that I think are vital to all of my clients. Some not so much. So I'm not going to be able to serve on every single subcommittee that comes up, and I really don't need to. But I am serving on a majority, more than half of them I'll be serving on.
Okay. And one last question. You said that on June 26th, the House Resource Committee is having a meeting to discuss water, and potentially we'll be looking at the data center issue.
Well, their agenda's not out yet. I know that they're going to be focusing primarily that day on groundwater.
Okay,
I don't know if they're going to be taking public testimony or if it's only going to be invited testimony. The last few meetings have all been invited testimony. The last two have lasted over 5 hours, and the one before that was 11 hours. And that was with invited testimony only. So they're taking the topic very, very seriously. As soon as I see that agenda, I will pass that agenda on to y'all.
and can one of us sit in on that, or is that only by invitation or what? I mean,
No,
just to,
anybody can attend. These are all public
Okay.
meetings. Anybody can attend. And by the way,
Okay.
all of the legislative meetings are broadcast. Now, the TWA committees, though that's a private organization, they meet privately, only tagged members may attend those meetings. But the legislative committee meetings are all public and are available both in person or you can sit and watch online.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have anything? Mr. Ellis, thank you so much. You've given us a
You
lot to
bet.
digest. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to help any way that I can. And this session is going to have wonderful opportunities to advance the cause of groundwater management and creating a reasonable, sustainable, and perpetual supply. And it's also going to be rife with peril. So we have to keep our eyes on everything. Just make sure that nothing goes south.
Greg, rest assured, I'll be talking at you as we go along.
You got. I appreciate it. I can use all the help I can get, certainly.
Okay. Thank you again. Regular agenda item 4E, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding potential appointment of a Lee County Director to the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District Board of Direction. Mr. Cook.
Yes, sir. We had selected Ms. Holly Payne, who is here today. And last month it got postponed that we could have a vote today.
Okay. Do I have any discussion on this matter?
Did the conflict of interest get settled?
What she said, I believe, was, did the conflict of interest get settled? And I believe the answer is yes. Natasha has had discussions.
No, I don't think Natasha has had an opportunity.
Okay.
But I believe Ms. Payne has spoken to this, and she stated last meeting that she would have to recuse herself on aqua related matters. And she could come up and speak. You can come up, you can speak to that directly. I won't have to speak for you.
There you go.
Yes, so fully aware of, the relatability and a lot of the things that we do together with you guys. And more than happy to recuse myself on any topics related to us in any of the meetings. Yes, ma'am. We deal with similar interest on our side, so fully aware and understand the repercussions and policies for that.
Well, I think the issue was not just in conflict of interest of you avoiding votes or whatever, but the issues that were brought up, would it be impacting you, fair to your job, that type of thing, those types of conflict of interest.
Sure. And I think, I don't know if we sat on this or discussed this last time. I'm less on the technical side with Aqua. I'm more, communications, public relations. That's really my focus. Water is my passion. Very, again, passionate about that, but I guess where I stand with that is that if there is an issue, I would love to be a part of this. I would love to help and be on this board and support the board. And if an issue does arise, then I understand. It's not going to be any hard feelings, but I think it's worth giving it a shot to see if that becomes an issue, but I would certainly hope it wouldn't.
Well, I think where we left it last time is Natasha was going to look through the rules or whatever to see. Because the question had come up.
She had briefly spoken to me after the meeting and assured me that it wasn't an issue, but I don't know if it was an action for her to have to follow up on.
Yeah, she spoke with me also and said it wouldn't be an issue as long as she recused herself with anything that had to do with Aqua.
Yes.
Because I think it was me and you that said.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest type thing, so.
Naturally,
That's been
yeah,
resolved.
yes. And again, willing and happy to do whatever I need to do to help with the conversations and not be a part of the ones that I don't need to be a part of.
Any other discussion? Questions?
I move that we approve the appointment of Holly Fain as the Lee County Board Member for the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District.
Second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Director Kane, you need to take your seat at dais here.
Move over, you've got a spot right here.
We'll have to get her a name plate. We don't have a name plate for her yet. We'll get her a-
And you have this for homework.
Oh, thank you so much. I love homework.
We also need to get her sworn in. If she hasn't signed, she'll need to sign the bribery, non-bribery oath. And she'll need to take the oral oath of office before she can vote.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll sit here quiet.
We haven't even voted on it anyway.
There's no votes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nothing to vote on.
No votes anymore.
We can do that right after this meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
The Education and Outreach Coordinators report. Claire, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go over some previous outreach that we've had and education that we've had since we last met. We had a 4th grade wildlife day at, I guess that'd be Giddings. I don't know if that's middle school, intermediate school. And we were able to talk to 140 4th graders. So I was very happy with that. We did our porosity model and a rainwater simulator. So we were able to teach the kids, one, how different materials on top of the earth can either increase runoff or increase water infiltration. And then the porosity model showed, okay, now that it's underneath the ground, how quickly does that water move? So it was fun. Thank you to Vice President Arsufi for being there and attending. I really appreciated that. Our rainwater harvesting 101 workshop that we just had, we had the largest attendance that we've ever gotten. So we had 41 in attendance. I was very happy with that. Usually we get 40 or 50 people sign up and then half of that come. So I was very happy. The room was packed. We had to find more chairs. And I also wanted to thank Innovative Water Solutions. They donated a 250-gallon barrel as a door prize. So I think that helped with people coming as well. We had last Friday, we actually had the Water Development Board right here in our office. Elvis and I did a presentation for them on who we are, how we were established, what programs we have. Elvis did a walkthrough on our database, so that was cool for them. And then we also went through a bunch of our models, and we did an edible aquifer, which is like an ice cream sundae, and they loved that. And I had the honor to present an award at the Elgin High School Senior Scholarship Ceremony. One of their seniors, I believe, got 2nd or 3rd place in our essay contest that we have every year. And so they invited me to give that award to them. And I was happy to do that. Okay, program updates. I just realized I don't have the well watch on here, but I think Elvis is going to go over that. Okay. So our rainwater harvesting, we had no inspections this month. I do have one on Friday, but no inspections since we last met. And a little update on the program. I had a meeting with Aqua last week about their cross-connection backflow requirements for potable rainwater harvesting system. So if the rainwater harvesting system is going to be used for potable use for the house, then it is required to have a backflow cross-connection permit and device put in. And so I was not aware of that. So we're going to be putting that into our presentations, letting people know about that. And we're also going to be, I'm going to revamp our application saying, have you talked to your municipality about their cross-connection requirements? And then I'm going to start doing this with every report that I give. I'm going to start having the submission amount, inspection amounts, and rebates released. I'm actually pretty happy. I calculated the numbers last year for the whole year. Only about 28% of people who applied actually ended up installing. This year, we're only halfway through, but this year we're at 62% of people who have applied have already installed. So I'm happy with that number. I'm hoping that shows that our presentations are getting more technical and actually providing people with the information they need to follow through. And our agricultural production meter, I am still trying to recruit farmers to go on board with this. You guys know anyone in your area who knows a farmer or your neighbors with someone, please let them know about this program. It's been really hard to recruit people for this. I am in talks right now with a local meter distributor. I believe he's out of Austin, to actually start purchasing meters. I think we've had maybe 5 applications, and that is not a good number. We have, I don't know, 100, 150 of these wells. So if you know of anyone around you who has an ag well, please send them my way. Okay, any questions? All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Next on the item, items 4G, the general manager's report. No action will be taken.
All right, the GM report for May 20th, 2026. We've had 29 Form 100s this past month in March. They're increasing. I mean, a couple of years ago we typically had maybe 10, 15 new wells. Form 100s are applications for a new well permit for typically domestic wells. The majority are domestic wells. So we're now up to getting 29. So that's quite, the numbers of wells are increasing that are coming in to be permitted or for an application. So 29 this past month. I participated engaging 2 of the wells with Spheros. Right now, as part of our well watch, Spheros has been out monitoring wells for the spring. They so far have monitored 128 wells, and 20 wells still remain. They should finish up next week. So 128 wells have been monitored thus far. Drought conditions. Drought has been improving, as we all know, because of the April rains. We now are no longer in extreme drought. Lee County is doing a little bit better than Bastrop County. Lee County is now in D1 and D2, whereas Bastrop County is in D2, D3. So there's still about 42% that's still in D3 in Bastrop. So Lee County's got a little bit of a head start there with the rains. And this is through just through a couple of weeks ago. So this data is about 2 weeks old or 10 days old. So we'll get the updates there. All righty. So that's the drought conditions. It's improving. Let me talk then towards the bottom. All right, I mentioned the spring 2026 well watch monitoring is underway. We're mostly almost finished. We did receive a new aqua permit application for a new permit somewhere. It's in the Red Rock area. We just received it last week, so we're still reviewing it, making sure it's administratively complete. So that'll be coming up in the next few months. And then, so let's talk about the GMA 12. So there's, since last we met on April 15th, we've had two GMA 12 meetings. We had one on the 16th of April, and then we had the April 27th meeting. The big item in April 16th was that we voted for the PS42 version 8. We voted that that would be the final run for the GMA 12. So that is our official, as of right now, that is our official run that we voted on. It was a 4-1 vote, with Brazos Valley being the one against that model run. So that was the big outcome of April 16th. Then on April 27th, the big thing was the vote for the proposed DFCs. So one thing to note, and I wanted to be very clear, and I want to be very upfront and candid and be completely transparent. I've been reviewing, the Brazos Valley, the Post Oak model runs, and Lost Pines. With respect to PS42, we're all limiting production, all three of us. Now, we're not all saying it, but we're all doing it. Post Oak, I'll show you a slide regarding Post Oak. But here's the Brazos Valley modeling. So Brazos Valley excluded about 141,000 acre feet of granted permits in their model runs. We were told that at the GMA 12 from Brazos that they had excluded some permits because there was question as to whether or not they were going to be drilled. And come September, there's a decision date, I believe is somewhere around September 14th, where a lot of permittees are going to have to make a decision whether they pay and start paying for their permits, or whether they drill or they lose the permit. And that's part of the Brazos Valley rules. So there are a chunk of permits that were in question. However, I asked Mr. Day, the Brazos Valley General Manager, at the April 27th meeting, I asked him for a list of all these wells. He did provide that to me the next day. And I learned that there are a significant number of upwell permits which are not in question. They're a done deal. In total, they were permitted 107,717 acre feet across 48 well locations. Brazos Valley included all 48 of those well locations, but they limited the production. Instead of 107,000, they limited to 50,000. So in my opinion, that means that equates to curtailment. They're limiting production from those upwell permits in their model run, and they excluded or limited them to only 50,000 out of the 107,000. So those upwell permits are not in question, but yet they were excluded from their model runs.
Only in their model run.
Right. Oh, in their proposed model runs, they were excluded. The only one that this was all included was the PS41. In PS41, the goal of that was to put everybody's permits in. So that one has everybody's permits. But when we went to PS42, the goal was to keep the DFCs the same or similar. And when they went to PS42 and the other model runs that they created, were excluding a significant amount of permits. It's looking like they excluded about 100,000 acre feet of permits, of granted permits that are a done deal.
They saying why they're excluding this?
Well, and again, initially they had told us that these permits were in question and that they may or not come to fruition. However, that's true for a subset of their permits. There's still a whole bunch of permits that they're not in question, and they have not given us a reason as to why they're excluding them. I believe it's to make the numbers look better, right? So you have less permits in the model run, and then the numbers come out a heck of a lot better when you're excluding permits. So another 84,000 acre feet of the permits may be extended. So there are permits that are in question. And on come mid-September, these permittees are going to have to make a decision. When I asked Brazos Valley if, when they find out, come September 16th, and they find out which permits will be extended, I asked them, will you then put them back into the model run and will you include them? And they told me no. So, and so this next slide is from a Brazos Valley board meeting for tomorrow's board meeting. Brazos Valley has a board meeting tomorrow afternoon. This is part of the presentation packet for tomorrow. And this is a list of the permits that were in question that come September, they would have to make a decision. And he already knows, Brazos Valley already knows about half of these permits will be extended. So as of right now, there's about 103 acre feet in the Simsboro that are in question. And these were permits that are currently excluded from their model runs. However, as of right now, today, almost half of these permits are being extended. And they are not going to be included in their model run, according to Mr. Day.
Do they have any idea when those wells will actually be drilled?
I don't know.
So somebody's sitting on them.
So they sitting, yeah, in Brazos Valley, you can request a permit and get a permit and not have to pay and not have to drill for 2 or 3 years, I believe.
Okay.
And that timeline is up come September 14th. So they're going to have to start paying the fees.
And didn't you say at one of our meetings that a large chunk of these had been bought by someone?
Possibly.
Okay.
There's a rumor mill that somebody's out there possibly
Buying
buying some of these up. Yeah. But I cannot confirm that.
Okay.
So obviously there's some permits that they know as of right now, they don't even have to wait till September.
They already know.
They know right now as of May that there's about 50,000 of questionable permits that will be extended, and he will not be putting them into the model run, just excluding them. So Post Oak modeling, I wish I could remove that banner, but the first line basically says the goal of PS42 was to keep the DFCs the same or similar to the current DFCs. That this has been stated several times, many times in the GMA 12. It's in meeting minutes, it's in PowerPoint slides. And unfortunately, Mr. Westbrook has recently taken a different stand now on this. He, at the last meeting on April 27th, and this is going to be in the meeting minutes from April 27th, Mr. Westbrook commented that the PS42 run was intended to be a best estimate run and not necessarily with the goal to achieve the same DFCs. That's not correct. That is absolutely not correct. We have stated numerous times at the GMs and the hydrologists that the goal of the PS42 was to keep the DFCs the same or similar. So these numbers, he chose the numbers, which he then voted against his own numbers at the April 27th meeting. So at the April 16th meeting, as I mentioned earlier, we voted 4-1 that the PS42 version 8 would be the final run for the GMA 12 model. And then 10 days later, 11 days later, at the April 27th meeting, Post Oak mostly voted against those numbers. And we had spent 9 months evaluating PS42 and improving PS42 and optimizing it. And then when it came down to the actual day of the vote, Post Oak and Mr. Westbrook started voting against all that work. Mr. Westbrook was asking the water board, well, do we even need to submit a model run? Can we just give you numbers? And the water board said, for right now, with proposed DFCs, we just need numbers. So they were trying to break the impasse, knowing that there was going to be, folks with conflicting desires. So the Water Development Board representative, Mr. Bradley, had told us, the GMA 12, hey, folks, let's just get numbers out there. So we don't agree, I do not agree with this methodology. I believe that our numbers should be based on a model run so that it could be evaluated by others and replicated. So that's our stand. I did not agree with the way things played out on the 27th because we ended up voting for each formation individually, and that really caused a lot of chaos and confusion. So here's the Post Oak slide. This is their own slide from Interra, their hydrologist, and that big red arrow points to their slide where they say the goal of PS42 is to maintain the same DFCs for the 4th planning cycle. So it's kind of hard to understand Mr. Westbrook all of a sudden taking the point of view and stating at the 27th meeting, oh no, the PS42 was just intended to be a best estimate. It was not necessarily to achieve the same DFCs. Meanwhile, his own slide is saying the goal of PS4 is to keep the same DFCs. So we did that. We kept the DFCs the same. Everybody had that opportunity. And so if they didn't take advantage of that, well, that's on them. They chose a higher number. So here's the Post Oak, and this is where I'm saying that everyone's curtailing or limiting production. So in the Post Oak PS42 model run, they limit everyone in the years 2060 and 2080 to 75% of their permits. They have a ramp up. So in the first 5 years, it's 25%, and then they increase it between 2030, 2050 to 50%. And 60%, and ultimately they cap it at 75%. So they're limiting production for everybody except for Vista Ridge. For some reason, Vista Ridge gets a free get out of jail free pass, and the Vista Ridge numbers were kept constant at about 50,000 acre feet. So that's going to be between them and SLR to figure that one out. So just wanted to show this slide that yes, indeed, the goal of PS42 was to keep the number the same. So these are the PS42 numbers here. And for the Lost Pines, the one thing to note is that the numbers on the left of these columns in the left, those numbers are based on the year 2070, because those are our current adopted DFCs. And now, per the Water Board, we had to go up to 2080. So this is a little bit apples and oranges because the number on the right is a number based on the year 2080. So if you take a look at our model drawdown, the numbers are exactly the same as our last cycle. So we pretty much kept our DFCs the same between last cycle and PS42. And the reason I have the red highlighted on the poster is just to show these are the numbers that they derived. And again, the goal of PS42 was to keep things similar or the same, and they chose not to. So in the Carrizo, Calvert Bluff, Simsboro, and Hooper, you see that the numbers that Post Oak chose were quite higher than the existing DFCs. And again, that was a number that they chose. And then Mr. Westbrook voted against all these numbers. So
What was his reasoning for changing after all this length of time?
I believe that he has direction from his board to pursue PS319 numbers. So this is what we ended up with. The table in blue is PS42. So that's the baseline. This is the PS42 numbers calculated by Spheros. And so at the end of the day, after we voted on, it was very confusing. So I wanted to put this slide up to educate everybody as to where we ended up and because it was quite confusing. So for the Sparta and the Queen City, let's take those two, which we voted to keep PS42 numbers. When it came to the Carrizo, Mr. Westbrook voted against PS42 and he proposed using PS319, the 2070, so our current adopted DFCs. And that ended up passing. So those numbers that got changed to the numbers in red. In the Hooper, then we went to the Hooper. And again, in the Hooper, I tried with me, myself and Mr. Bailey, representing Mideast Texas GCD. We made 3 motions, all 3 were unsuccessful. We were trying to keep the PS42, and instead we had to compromise and go with the PS319 2080 numbers. And then when it came to the Simsboro, we could not come to an agreement, and so the decision was made that we would just pick numbers. I do not like that. I was pretty much kind of outvoted at that point. I don't believe there was an actual motion made, but the majority of the folks wanted just to pick. We were clearly at an impasse. I had told everybody I am not going to support PS319. PS319 does not include, for example, our gatehouse permits. PS319 does not include the SLR permits in Post Oak. They do not include the upwell permits in Brazos. PS319 has predicted values between 2020 and 2024, whereas the PS42 has actual production numbers from real numbers from 2020 to 2024. So clearly, PS319 is not the best available science, and so I was like, no, I am not voting on PS319. Gary Westbrook was of the opposite view. He was not voting on PS42. And Mr. Day, representing Brazos, he wasn't voting on any of those 2. He wanted his potential PS43, which was even higher. So we were at an impasse. Again, the water board said, just pick, let's pick a number. So we ended up picking numbers. So when we picked numbers, Brazos Valley, instead of going with 283, which was the PS42 number, they ended up picking 330 and went up by 50 feet. Post Oak went in the other direction, and they picked 288 instead of the 369, and they went down by about 80 feet. So mind you, what's in the blue table was modeled. That was in the PS42 model, and so these numbers were proven in by the model. Now we've got 2 GCDs going in different directions. We now have 150 feet difference. And I don't know if the model will prove that number in, because we just picked numbers. So we're in the situation where things are pretty confusing. As you can see, we've got 3 different model runs in our proposed DFCs. Some of the Post Oak was able to get 3 of their formations in PS319 numbers. So Post Oak got the Carrizo, the Cimbro, and the Hooper based on PS319. I tried as best as I could to keep PS42. I did that with everything except the Carrizo and the Hooper. Similarly with Mideast Texas, we were in the same boat. It seemed like us and Mideast Texas were both trying to pursue PS42 unsuccessfully. And then at the end of the day, Brazos Valley, instead of us as a supermajority, we could have voted on PS42, which would have forced Brazos Valley into 283 feet. Instead, now they just got to choose 330 feet. So I'm not sure how this could be of any advantage to Post Oak. I mean, clearly Post Oak going down in numbers helps us. Post Oaks clearly impact us the most out of the 5 GCDs. So by them lowering the DFCs, is going to help our DFCs. But we have a issue between the border of Burleson County and Milam County and Brazos and Brazos Valley GCD. We've got 2 GCDs going in the opposite direction, wanting opposite things, and neither one wants to compromise. And right now we've got numbers across 3 different model runs, and we've never modeled these values that we selected. And we don't know if these are real numbers that are really going to pan out, if the model could back these numbers up. So
back up.
Sure.
So when this gets to the Water Development Board, it's not clear to me how they can approve these DFCs with Brazos Valley going way up.
Right.
and Post Oak going way down. There's no model that can,
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a model run well, we already, in my opinion, we have a model run. It's PS42 V8. That's currently the official run. And we have to present a model to the water board come December. Unless we can all compromise and have a supermajority accept PS42, other than that, we have no other model run available as an option at this point in time. We would have to quickly create yet another model run come September, October, which would probably force another 90-day evaluation period. And we are at the point where we may not have enough time to do this all by December, because the final vote needs to be done by December.
So can the Texas Water Board just say, no, you're going to use this model?
No,
No, it's not up to them.
it's not up to them.
It's all broken.
It's all
The
broken.
process is broken. The process is being gamed. The models are being gamed. They're excluding permits to make the numbers look better. They can manipulate where the water is in terms of what cells. They can spread out the water across multiple geographic areas to spread out the impacts. They can change the start dates. There's many things, several things you can do to manipulate the model. And the law doesn't detail this. So folks can do what they want. And what's happening is it's being gamed. The system and the process is broken and it's being gamed. I'm being very candid, okay?
Yeah.
so, there's the production, there's that ratio, production versus conservation. So it strikes me that this is clearly in violation of the conservation aspect. So Chapter 36, doesn't the Water Development Board have some enforcement capabilities?
The way it works is that we put out these numbers and then somebody can appeal it. And then they would appeal it, they would go to the water board would collect evidence and bring it to SOA for an appeal. And then the fun starts. Yeah. So it could be a years-long process through the appeal, going through SOA. And then if we do not adopt what SOA recommends, it can then go to district court.
But meanwhile, while this is all up in the air, if we put quotas on permits, does this give grounds for people to come back and sue us for increased quotas?
Well, I believe that if we do not come to an agreement, the current adopted DFCs remain in place.
Okay.
And that might be a strategy that some folks are pursuing. I just want to show you that last line in the Hooper, those Hooper numbers, the PS319, 2080. I just want to show you and the audience where those came from, the source. So this is from the March 17th GMA meeting. This was a presentation by the Post Oak hydrologist Intera. And the first column, I apologize for that black thing on, but you see the first column is the GCD, then the aquifer, and then the third column is PS319. That's the 2080 PS319. Intera, Dr. Young took the current PS319, which goes to 2070, and he expanded it by another decade to 2080. So those PS319 numbers are the ones that were used for the Hooper. So again, PS319 does not include a bunch of permits. Every GCD has had some big permit since PS319, and those are not in the PS319. And PS319 is just not the best available science. So I'm not sure what Post Oak is doing, trying to bark up that tree and trying to push PS319 when it's not the best available science. We'll leave it at that. So, any questions? All right, The next meeting, upcoming meeting really GMA, we don't have it, a scheduled meeting yet at the GMA 12. As soon as Mr. Westbrook sends his email to the water board with these numbers, which he believes he'll be able to send that email out in about 2 weeks, that'll kick off the 90-day public comment period. So officially, according to Mr. Westbrook, we have not yet entered the 90-day comment period. Not until he sends out the email to the water board with those proposed DFC numbers, which he will do in about 2 weeks, and then that'll start the 90-day public comment period. So it looks like we will probably have a hearing, a public hearing on the proposed DFC, probably July, no later than August. That is it.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for the general manager? Okay, thank you. Regular agenda item 4H, consideration for future agenda items. Does anybody have anything on here that they have to have on this for the next meeting? Okay, hearing none. The governance meeting will put together a schedule. If something comes up, please let me know. Regular agenda item 4I, set date and location of the next meeting. We're scheduled for Wednesday, June 17th, right here in the Giddings office at 3:30 p.m. We are not going to go into an executive session, so I'm adjourning the meeting at 5:16. Thank you all.